Hello, folks. Someone recently asked me about Zen and war. A lot of people, when they first discover Buddhism, are kind of excited because they think they've found the one religion that has never done anything bad. And this is usually people who've just started understanding Buddhism and they're usually pretty young, and they don't really know the history of Buddhism. They just know the history of their own religion, which disgusts them, and then they get into Buddhism and they think this. And the reason I describe it like that is because I was one of those people. I was really excited when I found Buddhism because I thought, oh look, there's one that's never had a war. That's not quite true. What often happens to people with this kind of idea is they run into some stuff that contradicts it, and they get kind of distressed, like me, and wonder what the deal is. So I'd like to discuss that. Now, as most of you know, I lived in Japan for 11 years, starting in early 90s into the middle of the first decade of the 2000s. During that time, I met a fair number of people, Japanese people, who had served in the Japanese army during World War II. Two of those people were very significant to me. One was my boss at Tsuburaya Productions, Kiyotaka Jimmy Ugawa, and the other was Gudo Wafu Nishijima, my Zen teacher. So, in a video that I did sometime in the early 2000s, I asked Nishijima about Japan's involvement in the war, and here's what he said.
A lot of people think that Buddhism was promoting the Japanese wrong philosophy during the war. Do you think so?
Yes, unfortunately, I think so. But without such a strategic process, Japan has become not better. Therefore, the truth make human beings happy. Wrong idea make human beings unhappy.
This is kind of typical of his answers to this question, and I wanted to get him on video saying this because I'd asked him this in lectures before and in private, and I'd gotten similar answers. He was very adamant that Japan was dead wrong during the war and deserved to lose, and he was even, when you talked to him about the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he was like, yeah, the Americans had to do that or the Japanese would never have stopped fighting. At the time when I first started studying with Nishijima Roshi, there was a book out that was quite popular called Zen at War by Brian Victoria that criticized the Zen involvement in the war effort, and particularly strongly criticized Gudo Nishijima Roshi's own teacher, Kodo Sawaki Roshi. And I asked Nishijima about that, and here's what he said.
American man wrote the book which criticizes Master Kodo Sawaki in the war so strongly. But I think the book includes some kind of exaggeration. And meeting Master Kodo Sawaki directly, he was not so affirmative to the war, but at the same time, he was thinking to do his duty as a man in Japan. So in such situation, I think his attitude is not so extremely right or left, and he is usually keeping the middle way as a Buddhist monk.
Nishijima Roshi volunteered for service in World War II. And by my calculations, he was born in 1919, which would have made him in his early 20s when he volunteered for service. So he would have been practicing Zazen for about 5 years by then. He said he started in his mid-teens, so let's say he started when he was 15 or 16. So we're not talking about somebody who was extremely steeped in the philosophy, but he certainly knew about its ideals of pacifism and not killing. Of course, that's the first precept. So why would Nishijima Roshi have volunteered for service in World War II? When asked that, he said, "I did not feel it was proper to accept the protection and sacrifices of others if I was not willing to do it myself." He understood that whether he volunteered for service or not, there would be other people volunteering for service or conscripted into service who would be protecting him with their lives, and he felt it was wrong to simply accept that protection without contributing. He also said that during the war, if one did not volunteer for service, it wasn't just that the individual would be punished. The individual's entire family could be punished for this. So it was not really a choice that one had. Most of us have not lived in a country that was under attack during a war. And we are very lucky for that. We don't understand what that's like. But I think if we use our imaginations, we can get a kind of an idea. On September 11th, 2001, the United States was attacked. 3 major buildings in New York City were destroyed. 1 major building in Washington, D.C. was severely damaged, and about 3,000 people were killed. That was pretty devastating, and there are people even today, almost 20 years later, who are still reeling from the effects of that. During the firebombing that happened in World War II in Japan, attacks that dwarfed September 11th, 2001 by orders of magnitude were happening every single day, and night too. So it's impossible, I think, for us to really understand what happens to people when that is going on. My guess, if I wanted to put myself in that situation in the world of my imagination, would be that politics be damned, I want to stop these people from bombing my city. So whether I agreed with my government or disagreed with my government, my first duty, I think, would be to my friends and neighbors and my city and my country to try to make it stop by any means that were available to me. So I can't sit here in my comfortable living room in Silver Lake going, well, those Japanese people, they should have refused to fight. They would have been better Zen students if they wouldn't have done anything. I can't do that because that's based on a fantasy and a lie. So, as Nishijima Roshi says, there were some shameful instances of Japanese Zen people using their clout as Zen teachers to stump for the war effort, and he rightfully denounces that. But the entire spectrum of what was going on in the country at the time is so difficult for any of us to fathom that I'm willing to cut a lot of people a lot of slack for things they might have said and done during those days. Of course, there are atrocities and things, and I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about ordinary people who did their duty for their country and for the people of their country. So yeah, it's a sad commentary on things that there were these Zen teachers who said these things and did some of these terrible things. And it, I think, goes to show that there's no philosophy that you can construct that is so watertight that it can't be turned into something bizarre by somebody who wants to do it. We see this all the time on the internet where somebody says something fairly innocuous, sometimes it's me, and the internet grabs it and turns it into something crazy pants. That happens on a bigger scale, and people can use any religion and any philosophy to justify any atrocity if they want to twist things around. But most of us know better that that's not what was meant when those things were first put into place. So this idea that Zen is about depersonalization, and depersonalization leads you to be able to be an efficient soldier and kill people because you don't care that, life and death are the same and blah, blah, blah. Sure, you could spin that out, but that is not the proper understanding of the tradition and philosophy and practice of Zen. And that's my short stump speech on that topic. I hope you enjoyed it or got something out of it. You can donate to me by PayPal and Patreon. The links are below. That's how I make my living, and I really thank you for that. I am not living hand to mouth, but without your contributions, I would not be paying my rent at all. I will be going to Europe soon. If you want to know where I'll be, here's a list of the places I'll be, and you can go to hardcorezen.info, I-N-F-O, hardcorezen.info. Click the link that says events, and you will get links to how to sign up to these various places. Every event is open to anybody who wants to come, so please come along and hang out with me, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Have a good time all the time. See you later. Bye.